Good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for being here for our April 14th Town Council meeting. We're happy to be here, some in person, some still with us virtually, and so we appreciate everyone's participation. We will follow along our agenda that council has in front of them, and if you weren't able to pick one up, they're out in the lobby. At this time, I will ask Pastor Wesley Morris to give us an invocation. He's with Oswald Baptist Church. It will be followed by our Pledge of Allegiance. At this time, I'll ask Pastor to give us an invocation.
All right, thank you, Mayor. Let's pray. Father, we bow our heads before you today. We thank you for the opportunity that we had to enjoy a beautiful day today, Lord, life and strength. We don't ever want to take that for granted. We know it's so valuable, and we thank you for it. We thank you for your good blessings. Lord, we thank you for our town. We thank you for our community. Lord, we pray that you would always add your blessings to it. The meeting tonight, we pray that you would bless. Have thy will and way, give wisdom and knowledge where it's needed for the business transactions, the things of the town and the meeting. Lord, we do thank you for what this weekend stands for and what it means to the world as a whole. And Lord, we thank you for Jesus dying so that he could be the Savior of the whole world. And we're thankful for that. And he lives again. He lives forevermore, and we're thankful that he's coming again. Bless all those that are part of this town, part of this community. We'll thank you and praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Morris. And at this time, council, you have your agendas in front of you. Is there any adjustments to tonight's agenda? Any staff adjustments?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, under new business number 19, if you all would please consider, we need to make an appointment for a legal matter for outside counsel to represent the Board of Adjustments. We would need a vote from town council in that appointment. If y'all are so moved to make item number 19.
Okay, there's a request by staff to add item 19, a legal representation for the Board of Adjustments. If you don't mind, I'm going to add that to 18A, just another bullet there. All right, we'll just make that just another bullet, and when we get to Board of Adjustments, we'll just handle it as a third bullet. Any other adjustments to the agenda? Okay. Hearing none, I'll ask, is there a motion to accept the agenda as presented with the amendment?
I will make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made, received a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. We'll move on down. The next items on the agenda are consent items. They are considered routine by the council, will not be or will be approved with one motion. There will not be any separate motion unless an item is requested to be removed by council. There are 5 sets of minutes. We've got a facade request, annexation request, some budget adjustments, amendments, and approval of a resolution resolution approving financing terms, as well as approval of CRTPO interlocal agreement. Council, you've got the consent agenda. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented?
I'll make that motion.
Motion is made. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Motion is made, received a second. Any question or comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? No. Hearing none. Motion passes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is introductions, recognitions, and/or presentations. We've got a presentation regarding the 2020-2021 budget year audit. I believe Ms. Pearson is here. So if you would, please feel free to give us our audit. Thank you.
Okay, I have the pleasure to inform you that you received an unmodified audit opinion on your financial statements. That's the best audit opinion that an auditor will give. On your compliance with government auditing standard requirements, which deals with the internal control over financial reporting and the provisions of laws, grants, regulations, things of that nature, you also received an unmodified opinion. Okay. And we conducted a compliance audit of the NC tax exempt, the Connect bonds, because you had received more than $500,000 in state funds, and that is an unmodified opinion on your compliance with the provisions and the regulations that are applicable to that particular funding stream. With your governmental activities, your total assets were $13.5 million, deferred outflows $568,000. Your total liabilities, $5.2 million. Your deferred inflows, $87,000. Your total net position, $8,761. Total cash was $4.4 million. Total revenues, $5.3 million. Total expenses, $3.7 million. Your business type activities, which is your water and sewer fund, you had total assets of $17.1 million, total deferred outflows $70,000, total liabilities $1.9 million, total deferred inflows $6,000, total net position $15.2 million, total cash $1.7 million, total revenues $2.9 million, total expenses $2.4 million. In the general fund, your total assets were $4.5 million, total liabilities $60,000, total deferred inflows, which is property taxes, $31,000, total fund balances $4.4 million, total revenues $5.2 million, total expenditures $4.3 million. Your financial condition at the end of the year, in the governmental and the water and sewer combined statements, the assets exceeded liabilities by 24 million. 77% of the town's net position is invested in capital assets, plant, property, and equipment, the distribution systems for water and sewer. 6.9 of the town's net position is subject to external restrictions on use. That's because you have funds for POW bill, police, things of that nature. And 15.83% of the town's net position is unrestricted. Your debt decreased by $706,000. Your unassigned fund balance was 62.23% of your total general fund balance, and your legal debt margin is $34 million. Your unassigned fund balance, which the local government commission will monitor, as of June 30th, it was $2.7 million. That exceeds the LGC recommendation of 8%. By that recommendation would be a fund balance of $348,000. So you substantially exceed that. Over the last 5 years since we've been auditing it, the fund balance has steadily increased. That was an observation based on some of our trends. Property taxes, You collected $3.2 million. Uncollected property taxes of the $31,000. You have a 99.36% overall collection rate. Property without motor vehicles is 99.31%. Motor vehicle collection rate, of course, is 100%. And based on my observation with similar towns, you're in the trends that one would expect to be. These are very good numbers. We had no changes in significant accounting or in the use of accounting estimates that we noted during the audit. There were no material weaknesses noted in internal controls, no significant deficiencies in internal controls, and no non-compliance noted. The changes in the use of estimates have occurred over the last several years due to pension liabilities, the separation allowance liability for law enforcement, and the post-employment benefit liability accruals, and that continues. The most sensitive disclosures dealt with capital assets, debt, pension obligations, and post-employment benefit obligations. We proposed adjustments, and we have passed those on to your staff. They are dealing largely with the accrual basis of accounting and recording these additional pension liabilities. That's the majority of the adjustments. Immaterial adjustments were not adjusted because they have no effect on total financial condition. Common process. And if we could communicate to you that we appreciated the opportunity to do the audit, and we know it took us a while to do. I have had significant staff turnover, and that has had a very negative impact on my ability to get work out. Okay. Any questions?
Questions or comments for Ms. Pearson?
I think the feeling I got from your presentation is that we're in a very good, in fact, I think you stated it directly, we're in a very good financial position in this town, and I always keep a close eye on what I refer to as a savings account, fund balance, and steadily increasing because we have a lot of things coming up that we've got used for that and so forth, but that's music to my ears and helps me to sleep at night. Thank you.
You have asset trends and numbers that would let you have a lot of flexibility in your decision making.
Any other questions or comments? Got it. You referred to legal debt margin in the presentation.
Okay.
What did you mean by that?
Okay. You take the assessed value of your property, your taxable property. You multiply it times 8%, and then you subtract all your existing debt from it. So that basically means if you really wanted to make a bad decision, you could borrow $34 million.
Good to know.
Okay. It's not the best decision because you'd have to service the debt.
Didn't say we were doing it. Just said good to know. Thank you. Okay. Any other comments or questions? It does sound like, given we had some staff changes, that even with that, we had really good continuity between our staff changes, and Justin was able to pick up the ball and keep us running here. So great work by the staff, and making sure that we didn't have any significant
We always enjoyed working with the old staff, and we found the new staff to be very easy to work with.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda are standing reports. First report is our Troutman Fire Department quarterly report, be given by Chief Wesley Morris.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. It's been a little while since I've been to give a report, so we do have a couple things going on around the fire department. I do not think I give you the final run total incident number for 2021. I think the last time I was here, I gave you what we thought or a projected number, but we did, that total number was 2,512 incidents that were responded to in 2021, which was up about 500 calls from the prior 2 years of that, which would be 19 and 20. So we did anticipate that, and to be honest with you, we anticipate it to be more this coming year. A couple things that are going on that are new around the fire department other than business as usual, as we have ordered a new rescue pumper, or engine rather, and it will be replacing engine 3, which we bought new in 2009. And it has approximately 120,000 miles on it. And so we have worked with the county, and we have ordered this truck. Of course, it'll be, turnaround time is about 15 to 18 months before we get it, but it has been ordered, and it will be going out at Station 3 on Pineville Road. We're in the planning and permitting phase of a project at Station 3. Again, that is the Pineville Road Station, if you're not familiar with our station numbers and where they're at. This will involve an upfit and expansion. We're adding bedrooms to it that will be able to house 4 personnel. 2 new bays will be added to the station over there, and then we'll be upfitting the kitchen and the day room area in that station. And that's all to be done so that we can be prepared in the future of hiring more full-time personnel to staff that station. Presently, we have 1, if you remember out there, that's staffing that station around the clock full-time, then part-time through the week and volunteers. But making plans, so we'll have room for those full-time personnel when that time comes. We are currently doing our annual hydrant testing in the town and outside the town, but on our water system. Typically, I let the town know that, but we're not flowing any hydrants this year other than just flushing them. And then we're lubricating the the threads on the caps and as well as inspecting them. We do that annually. And we've got a rotation that we do certain things a year as far as flow testing, painting them, and then just doing this basic test that we're doing this year. And lastly, we have an annual public meeting. The fire department's annual public meeting will be held on June the 6th at 7 o'clock at Fire Station 1. So that's the latest things that's going on around the firehouse. Any questions? I'll be glad to answer. Try
Did you say
to.
the public meeting was?
It is June the 6th at 7 o'clock at Station 1.
Other questions for the chief?
I just have something, Mr. Mayor. Chief, thank you as always for what you your chiefs and your officers and your firefighters do for the town of Troutman.
Thank you, sir.
But just a question, and it's all good. The county fire tax now, how are we making out with it on the Troutman end? Are we getting taken care of the right way?
I think I could stand and say that, yes, we are getting taken care of. Of course, when we did this now, approximately 3 years ago, we were questioning how that was all going to turn out, and I think it was a question for everybody. But so far, the county has done very well by us. As far as I've made mention, we have actually, this will be the 3rd truck that we've been able to buy with the county's assistance on that. And so as far as that goes, I think the county's done very well on their end of what they said they would do.
Thank you very much, Chief.
You're welcome.
Great to hear that we're getting our fair share.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So I was just concerned, you've been in the new fire station now for probably about a year. How's everything? You have any bugs yet from a new building that we always have something come up?
No, sir. So far, everything's been very well with the new station. We haven't run into any issues other than just the little things that you may have as far as, an HVAC unit that has to be, I guess, a reset button that you don't know about and they come tell you about, little stuff like
It
that.
was a major.
But it was, and other than that, we're very satisfied with our building and glad to be in it.
Good.
Chief, now, you
Yes,
said you had 1 full-time at Station 3 right now,
Yes, sir.
and how many at Station 2 do you have full-time?
Station 2 has 2 full-time around the clock, yes, sir. And it is our goal, what we are wanting to do is to at least have, of course, we got 4 at Station 1. We would like to have a 3-man engine company at Station 2. And optimally, we'd like to have a 3-man engine company at Station 3. And that way they could function and operate when they arrive on the scene as an engine company, with one driver and an officer and a firefighter. So that's our goal, but we have to take baby steps to reach there.
Other questions? Just a quick question. You mentioned the new fire engine you have coming. How do you dispose of the one that you will replace that with?
Okay, we're going to, which we are keeping, we try to keep a couple in reserve because they're constantly, having little problems, as you can imagine. And so we keep one so that if one goes down, that we could. But what we're going to do on this particular truck is we're going to trade one of our older engines in on it. This is kind of a new thing for me, trade-ins for fire trucks. You can sell them outright, but the market's high right now. There's a lot of trucks out there that are market. So we did a trade-in on this new truck. And the new truck, I don't know if you've noticed the brand new engine 1, if you've seen it out, the one that comes out of Station 1, this engine 3 will practically be exactly like it. We're very satisfied with this truck. It's been in service for, I guess, going on a year now, and it's operated good. So the new engine 3 will be just like the engine 1 is now.
Okay, great. One of our neighboring towns started to have issues with some of the water that's coming through their house. And they think it's due to some of the flushing of the water, and I'm assuming you've not seen any of that or heard any of that from any of our neighbors as you all have gone through this process of kind of opening up their hydrants and that sort of thing.
And when you say they're having water coming through their house,
So
what can you?
after, they're alleging after flooding of some of the hydrants and flushing them, that the water coming back in their house is muddy water, if you will, or some other kinds of water.
And we usually have those problems when we do more flowing, because basically, and my apologies if I didn't let the town know that we do it every April, and so that's on me. But typically, at this point, we basically just open the hydrant enough to let it flush out, to make sure the valve's working correctly and the drain hole's working correctly. And so we haven't heard anything like that at the fire station. And so I kind of wanted to mention that tonight. So if it comes around, that we are doing those annual inspections that is required by ISO ratings to do. So we definitely apologize for that.
Yep, no worries. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, council. Appreciate your support.
The next item on our agenda is our ABC Board Store Quarterly Report, and I believe we've got Mr. Getzinger here, our Chairman of the Board.
Good evening, Mayor and honorable council members and town staff and fellow citizens and Debbie. On behalf of my colleagues, Wes Edmonston and Kim Cavins, and also General Manager Evelyn Walls, thank you for the opportunity to be here to give you an update on our third quarter for this current fiscal year. The third quarter, as I had mentioned to you in January, the January and February tend to be months where sales fall back, in which we did see that fall back. Didn't fall back below what we had anticipated in March, did see our uptick that we anticipated. So that continues to be the way things work. As we've said before, if we can January and February, we can march on in, and everybody, I think, is just kind of getting used to getting over Christmas and all the other, getting ready for income taxes and whatnot. So but we're back on track, and just as a result of that, in January we were up 19%, in February 14.5%, and in March 13.6% over the corresponding months of 2021. And for the third quarter, we were actually up 15.6% over the third quarter for last year. Third quarter sales, which would be January, February, March, were $650,341 compared to last year's sales of $562,259, which was an increase of $88,000 over last year. Distributions for the third quarter will be $18,512 for the town and its identified recipients. Law enforcement will receive $4,035, and alcohol and drug and education will receive $5,649. And while I'm thinking about it, I'll be sending Kim a copy of this report. It'll be in a little bit more detail than what I'm giving you this evening, and also, Debbie, if you need it, I'll send it to you too. Let's see here, where was it? Okay, third quarter net profit, we netted $48,711 this year compared to last year of $34,667, so we had a 41% increase over last year's third quarter in profit. The quarterly and 9-month recap, we have a budgeted revenue of $2,362,000. In the first quarter, we hit 32% of that. Second quarter, 38% of that, and last quarter was 28%. So as of the end of the third quarter, we've achieved 98% of our projected revenue. So we need $64,553 to hit the budget for this year, and I believe we did that Saturday. I mean, as of Saturday, I think we hit that number. So we're at and above annual budgeted revenue at this point. Now we need $702,253 to hit the $3 million revenue mark, and based on what we have averaged thus far, we are in a good place for that to happen. Based on the daily sales and the numbers that we track, it shows that we'll do $3,079,000, but that means averaging about $9,003 a day between now and the end of the fiscal year. And stated differently, we just need to average $234,000 a month for the next 3 months. Our budgeted profit after distributions was $107,722, and we've already achieved $194,059 for the year. So we're 180% of budgeted revenue profit for the year as of the end of the third quarter. Our retained working capital is $385,400. That's down slightly. Our allowed retention amount is $490,812, but we took $265,000, I think it was, out of savings to buy the lot that we bought for the second store. So that's the difference between what we did have and what we do have now. We are at full staffing, and we don't know of any staffing needs that we have for the moment for the rest of the fiscal year. We're fortunate that we have not really experienced any turnover in the last 9 months. And I'll be happy to take any questions that y'all might have.
Any questions for Mr. Getzinger?
Just amazed that we drink $3 million.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I said, I'm just amazed that this town drinks $3 million in alcohol.
It's not all of us. It's people visiting our town because it's so nice, and they come in and,
Okay, I like
yeah,
that
we
answer.
want to make sure.
What did you say, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, yeah, just,
It's our hours of operation, the other towns are coming here.
right.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, we'll blame it on others.
With the addition coming north of us up at Berry, and now you're going south, and that's a good strategic plan. What are we gonna do to allow for that with our, relatively speaking, little store there at the corner next to Walgreens? I mean, is that gonna be able to handle that population? I know we're talking
Well-
years down the road, but start planning now.
The answer to your question is, I hope so. And I say that not being cute, but we have the ability to move the wall where the office is right now back. And with the coming of the second store, which like what you're saying, that second store will probably be at least a year before we start seeing any kind of action. But we will have the ability to increase our retail sales space and add a few cashier stations. So hopefully that will give us the ability, but we will have to add additional warehousing capability, and we'll handle our mixed beverage sales out of the second store as well. So in fact, we'll be moving the office to the new store when that comes to pass, because we'll need to add a finance officer as well.
I think parking is adequate at our station downtown. Again, looking to the north at what's coming, you think the parking will be adequate to handle that on a good
Here?
day, shall we say?
In the current store?
Yeah, in the current store, yeah, at the next to Walgreens.
I think so. It's going to be we're going to have to use some of Walgreens parking, but that's part of the reciprocal easement agreement. They can use part of ours and we can use part of theirs, but it's usually just, the weekends and the eves of holidays that we see the overwhelming demand for parking. But
It's just, that, every time you come before us, we're just breaking records.
yeah,
And I'm happy, it's a good problem. But, with this coming up here, which is kind of a small town, if you will, or a city, whatever, I just want to make sure that, the board is, the ABC board is looking at how we're going to handle that in addition to our current customers and the ones that are going to continue, even if that were not coming.
well, we did talk about it at last night's board meeting about how we're going to, because we don't have, the rule of thumb, it's not written, chiseled in stone or written anywhere, but about 5 miles radius is what you want between stores. And so we would be too close to add a second or a third store in that direction, so we would actually need to be in a position to accommodate that amount of influx in this store here. And literally just by moving the wall back and adding additional cashier stations, hopefully we would be able to handle that. I mean, and then some of the people that are shopping with us now will be shopping down in the second store just because of convenience. So that hopefully will minimize some of the demand on parking.
Great.
You did say the lot has been purchased?
Yes.
Will this, size-wise, how will it compare to our current store?
Well, the lot is fairly large. It's literally about 7 acres. We got a magnificent deal on the purchase of the lot. So we are in a position to actually accommodate that. We are in conversation with some folks that are looking at land on either side of us as how we might build out that area, but just similar to what we've got right now with Walgreens. But we have plenty of space to be able to accommodate whatever. We're talking about maybe putting about 12,000 square foot building in there just for warehousing and also for retail space there, because by the time we break ground, the amount of rooftops that are going in out there just seems like every time I turn around, there's new conversations about more development.
Yeah, so we could expect a markedly larger
Yes.
retail space.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes,
Well, in addition to, of course, the warehouse.
exactly.
Great. Thank you, as always. Please give our best to the rest of the board, and I always thank Evelyn for managing our great store, so thank
Well,
you so much.
I will
Mr.
certainly let her know, and she's more than likely listening to this on the computer, so she hopefully just heard your comments, but
Great.
I will make sure that they all hear what you
Great.
had to say, and as well as all the employees.
Great, thank
But
you so
thank
much.
you all for the opportunity.
Thank
The next item on our agenda is public comments. The public comment period is an opportunity for visitors and guests to comment to council on any general concerns or comments you might have. These comments are limited to 3 minutes per individual. Must sign in at the podium and adhere to policy 51 regarding comments to the council. Please note that this is, again, a regular scheduled meeting, and we are also allowing people to provide comments virtually or send letters. So I'll start with Michael. Anything online?
You just got a comment from Evelyn Walls. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Evelyn. Kim, any comments? Thank you. Any comments from the public?
Any particular one, Kim?
Yeah, public comment, there's one for public hearing and public.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Sally Williams, and I would like to say thank you to the mayor and thank you to all the council members for your service to the citizens of Troutman. I know what you're doing, and I still support you 100%. I'd also like to say to Mr. Wyatt, Chief Watson, and staff, thank you for everything that you do for the citizens of Troutman. Chief Watson and Eddie Now, thank you for making numbers visible on the cars, the police cars. It's nice, as Mr. Now had said previously, it's not to be negative, it's also could be a positive thing. So thank you. Chip Smith, our planning and parks and rec department, the flower pots on, why did you not do those? On Wagner Street, the plants look fabulous. It looks really nice. And also, I don't know if anyone's noticed, but there are 2 little plants at the end of the Greenway at the corner of Eastway and the crossover at Rumpel Street. That's a nice little touch there. Thank you. I bet many people hadn't noticed that. Also, Mr. Wyatt, I noticed last week the new sign, electronic sign. Thank you. I'll be glad to see when stuff are on it.
We are trying to get him back with the software.
But it looks nice. And I was at Troutman ESC Park Tuesday a week ago, and for my great-grandson's t-ball game, and it was packed. The parking lot was packed. There were, both fields were utilized by t-ball players and games. There were soccer people practicing, and people on the playground, and people at the dog park. It was just fabulous to see that it was completely filled with people. And I think, other than Party in the Park, that's the most I've ever seen people in there. And I hope everyone has a nice Easter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the public?
My name is Alan Hales. My wife and I live on Hoover Road, just past the old Russell Murdoch farm. This board has discussed the old Murdoch farm numerous times for the past 13, 14 years. And now everything with the Walmart warehouse on the back 100 and the neighborhood Norwood Walk on the front 100, everything has come to an end, almost. I'm here, I just wanted to be sure the board and staff were aware that Norwood Walk is now a total rental neighborhood. I think it's 163 houses to be built there. And my neighbors and I, and we've seen a lot of things come and go on that property, and probably the last thing we ever expected was 160 odd rental homes right around the corner from us. And I just wanted to be sure everyone was aware that it was all rental property now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments to council? Okay, great. I will allow comments from any council who wants to respond to any of the comments to any of our responses during the public comment period.
Well, I'm just gonna, I'm sorry.
No, no, by all means.
I was just gonna mention, Mr. Taylor, I hear you, and I'm equally disappointed, surprised, disappointed. Feel a little bit deceived, perhaps. It's not what I expected. Never was mentioned, and all the time that that's been discussed out there, and that's been for several years before ground was broken. And I don't know what else to say legally. Nothing we can do at this stage. Perhaps there's something in the future we can do so it hopefully doesn't happen again. I don't know. I'm just speaking right now from a wishful thinking. Legally, that's the most important thing, what we legally can and cannot do for that. But I sure am disappointed as well. Did not anticipate that, and I'm just sorry that it's turned out that way. And I don't know what else to say, but we do hear you, or I hear you. We do hear you.
I'd just like to ask our planning director, is there, looking back, is there anything we could have done in the conditional zone or anything that would have prevented that from happening? Well, at the UDO, I don't know what we could have done, but I would just, going forward, is there anything we could do?
I'm not an attorney, but in my planning opinion is that really from a standpoint, a legal standpoint, we cannot we can regulate the use of property, but we cannot regulate ownership. So, just like any of us in this room could rent our home, anybody can do that, and we cannot stop that from happening. So I don't know that there was anything we could do from a zoning standpoint. I don't even know if we could have conditioned that through a conditional zoning. I don't think that would have even been legal. So I guess the short answer is no. I don't think we could.
I know I looked at the definition of the detached, home, single-family detached homes, and they mentioned either by management or rental. It always listed in the definition in our UDO. So I saw that. I thought we probably couldn't have changed it if we wanted to, but I didn't know if going forward is something we could think about down the road in this.
The town council may be familiar with more cases to cite by name, but there are certainly numerous cases throughout the United States and North Carolina to where this exact scenario has came up, and the property owners have prevailed in all the cases that I'm familiar with, that whether it be an entire community that are apartments or townhomes, or just like in this case, it's still normal houses as far as the appearance will go from the community. It's going to look like a normal house. The fact that they are being rented or being owned by one person or 163 persons don't change what the houses are going to look like or anything of that nature. But in this particular situation, I just would like to remind, this property came up for consideration as a commercial development first. So it's certainly one of those that if we're going to, we don't like one option, then this is a perfect example of what we try to educate citizens. Be careful what you wish for. So if you don't want commercial development, the property owner has the right to sell their property, and then if you deny commercial, then we certainly put ourselves in a position as a town that if commercial is denied, then the next opportunity is for residential. And this is one of those situations to where it was past residential, And then we certainly cannot, as I defer to the town attorney, just tell somebody once it's a residential development that it can't be single ownership or a residential rented community. I certainly understand Mr. Hale's disappointment, but as far as regulatory, as our planning director has said, we certainly cannot tell land developers when they're building a house that they have to sell it to a person that's going to own it instead of it being rented.
They could at least had the courtesy to let us know they were thinking about going that route when they changed companies.
I absolutely agree. In full disclosure, if they want to be good community neighbors, they should say that
That's the
up
other
front.
piece I thought, they could have been good neighbors, because now they got several other neighborhoods that they're developing in this area.
I think everybody in this town and community certainly can look at them as they did not tell us the entire truth. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
My question's for Lynn. Lynn, can we, as a town council, speak to the developers once the homeowners go in there with a strong HOA, homeowners association, to keep the neighborhood nice for the other neighbors of the community up there? I mean, a strong HOA, will keep that neighborhood hopefully nice.
You tag team it.
What I'm kind of asking is, we still could make some, I know we can't tell them, but could we meet with them and make some suggestions?
Sure. My guess is there will not be an HOA, but my guess is that there will be a management company who will probably, my understanding in some of these neighborhoods, that's even part of what these renters are getting as part of renting the homes, is part of their lawn maintenance. I can't guarantee that's what's going to happen in this development, but my assumption is there will be a management company who handles renting of the properties, who maintains that property. So that's definitely something that I'm assuming will happen, yes.
Thank you.
And to further answer your question, because it's a legislative decision, you can talk to anybody in the world you want to. And talk to them about anything in the world that you want to, as long as it's not illegal. But unless if it's a quasi judicial matter, then you can't. So most of your decisions are legislative, so you can talk to anybody you want to.
Gary, question then. Is it conditional? And Lynn mentioned she didn't think so, but I just wanted to ask you as well. If it is a conditional zoning, is there a chance we could legally put that as a condition that it's owner occupied, or it cannot be rental property? Is that legal in this state?
I haven't specifically researched that, but I would tend to think that you cannot do that, because it is an indice of ownership. It is not an indice of use.
Well, I agree with the town attorney. They're certainly not being good neighbors to start off, and not providing any information up front, may have been something that, legally we can't prevent, but at least we would be aware of it and know, so that we're not caught off guard and deer in the headlight type of feeling down the road after they turn dirt and, building, and then they say, oh, by the way, we're, not what you think, it's something else. To me, that's just leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Can't do anything about it, but it sure leaves a bad taste in my mouth towards the developer. So I'll leave it at that, sir.
Ms. Oxer, did you want to comment?
Thank you both for coming and give public comments.
Could I speak just another second, please?
I'll give you another minute.
This is D.R. Horton, the largest home builder in the whole wide world. I'm sure they're right, and I'm sure there's nothing that can be done about it. And surely I hope the board and staff are aware that this is the new thing for national builders, is fully rental type neighborhoods. I understand there'd probably be no HOA. There would be a management company. I hope that lawn maintenance, and you see it on TV, and it's the most perfect situation in the world. Immediate home repairs. They take care of this. They take care of that. I just hope. The bad feeling I have about rental property, I hope I'm wrong, long term. But please be aware, this is the new thing with these national home builders. So, that's it. That's all I got. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Based on that, I mean, you might want to talk to your legislators, because it's a legislative problem, and the legislature's actually been loosening up on allowing rentals rather than tightening up.
Yeah. So I was actually about to comment as Mr. Hill made his last comment. It is a national growing, way of actually people wanting to get into to homes. Doesn't get them to home ownership, but a lot of communities have dealt with affordable housing to a certain extent, and there's a lot of national builders have gone in and started doing exactly this. So I know there's several communities in Charlotte and around Mecklenburg County that are experiencing the same thing, and so again, I've not heard of a legal solution that will solve this problem, but maybe to Mr. Thomas's last point, it might be something to speak with the legislature about, at least having the option of maybe going through that, when we have the public hearing, seeing if that's a condition you can offer, but definitely something we can talk about.
To follow up, Mr. Thomas, I know that there's nothing that we can do as a body, and the legislature is the place to go, but there has been a movement of HOAs trying to tightening these. How is that faring in the courts?
That's faring very well for the HOAs, but those are private entities within each subdivision.
So those types of restrictions within those communities are effective?
Oh, sure, they make people take down flagpoles and fences, and they are very tight and very enforcement. The court backs them up. And I know the town has gotten calls in the past asking for town's help in enforcing HOA rules, and the town can't do that.
So that brings me to my point,
Thank you.
Jerry. So I was wondering if we as a town, I mean, I know that Gary suggested that we go and look into this, but can we as a town make those property management companies make them? Doug's shaking his head no. Maintain the lawn and home care and no cars and things like that. Can we as a town make them enforce those rules?
I think it, and I'm sure Lynn can speak to this, but it has to be within our ordinance. As long as they're not violating our ordinance, whether it's height of the grass or what have you, then it seems like they would be in compliance. But
My comment was just going to be, if it is a conditional zoning, you do have the ability to condition the approval of that. You can't condition the ownership, but you can place things on there like requiring them to have a management company, maybe as long as they agree to it, that require that they put something in their management rules, that lawns are maintained, or those types of things can be negotiated through the conditional zoning process. So that's something that when these things come to us, maybe we need to start looking at that a little bit closer when we do consider conditional rezonings, of what types of conditions we might want to include in there that would help maintain the quality of these communities going forward.
correct.
So can we ask up front, will this be a rental community? And then at the same time, I didn't mean to stop you, if they don't tell us, like this right here, can we go back? And you know what I'm saying? So it's a lot of questions that we probably need to, as Mr. Hale was stating, it's a new thing, so.
And it's a fine line, and I'm sure Gary can address this as well, but I'm not sure we can ask them, honestly. Because if you make a decision and it's turned down because they said it was going to be a rental, that could be an issue for the town.
And maybe why they didn't tell us.
Correct, yeah.
So in the conditional, we usually put something about the HOA. I guess we could also add a management if it is a rental.
There's some things like that that you could
We could
add,
add
as long
that
as
so that we'd at least make sure there's a management group there.
if the applicant agreed to it, yes.
Now, I would like to also point out, in speaking with the chief, we have at least one community that we're both familiar with, as it's being built out and or people in it are selling. Some of these investment groups and or companies are buying. It does have an HOA already existing. So some of these larger investment companies are buying houses and lots as they come available. So it is happening that some of these are buying houses as rental properties, and they are already in an HOA. So that, in some places, it does happen and is happening already. That's there. They automatically join the HOA. And certain townhouses, the national lenders will not loan money if a certain percentage is owned by investment properties as rentals. So that affects the quality of how many units are owned. Condos, for example, which we don't have a lot of those available in our town limits. But in townhomes, as those projects comes forward, that is something to keep in mind as we pass those projects, as you all allow them to go through. If a certain percentage is not held, then individual wanting to buy one would not be allowed to if a heavier percentage is owned as investments or rentals.
Okay. Go ahead and move forward so we can get through our agenda. I do want to say thank you, Ms. Williams, for your comments. It's always good to hear positive things about what's going on in our community as well. And I know you're actively part of our community, and so we appreciate the comments and you noticing the good things that are going on. So thank you. The next item on our agenda is new business. I will move to the first item, which is the consideration of ordinance amending the Town of Troutman Code of Ordinances regulating and controlling the deposit of mud, dirt, construction materials, and debris from construction sites onto streets and sidewalks. At this time, I'll turn it over to Ms. Hare.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, members of council, this is an ordinance that the staff is asking the council to consider. This would be something that would be added not to our UDO but to our Code of Ordinances. What this is an ordinance that would allow the town to regulate basically the deposit of mud, debris, anything coming off of a construction site on our town streets and sidewalks. Just to give you a little bit of background, we have received several complaints. We do have several neighborhoods under construction in the town. When it rains, we started receiving complaints about mud being on streets. As these construction vehicles are coming on and off these properties, this was starting to happen. So we started to look into how we would address these. The county regulates erosion control, which is typically where any type of regulation or requirement for cleaning these up would come from. So we just did not have an ordinance in the town that gave us the authority to go out there and do something about this. So we put together this language that would allow the town to have some control over this, because what was happening is our police department was getting called, and they were having to follow up on this, and this really is something that wasn't within their purview. They have more important things to be taken care of. So we did put together some language just to kind of hit the highlights of that. What this will allow us to do is send notice of violations when necessary. It will also allow us to set a time frame in which we would ask these violators to clean the mess up, or to go out there and get these streets cleaned. If it's not done, the town can go out there and clean it up, and then we can ask them to reimburse the town for the expense of the cleanup. If that fee is not paid, then we can also place a lien on the property if necessary, so the town can recoup those costs. And then we also put in there that the Section 22.3 of our Code of Ordinances, which talks about, civil penalties, that we can apply those to these situations as well, if necessary. So those are the options that we've placed in this ordinance, and this will give us the ability to address these situations from a town perspective and not have to rely completely on the county in these situations.
Thank you, Ms. Hare. Is there any comments for Ms. Hare?
I just say, I think this is a good ordinance. When I was out one day after rain with the manager, with the ones that were just like one house, they had as much mud on the road as one of the other developments, just dragged it out, and there were big clots of stuff out on the road, not just tracks. So it was some issues that was really causing some problem with people having to go around them and stuff. There's so much mud and debris had gotten on the road. I guess we'd come out of their dual tires and it flopped out in big piles, and they were just ignoring it. So I applaud you for putting this together.
Ms. Harris? Mr. Now?
Lynn, this is just our town roads that we're talking about with this ordinance, am I correct? Or-
Yes, sir. We
Okay.
would only have the authority to regulate this
Right,
within our
because
town limit, yes.
Then any citizens then would have complaints, say on a state road, would have to contact.
I'm sorry, no, town limits.
Oh.
This would be within our town limits.
Okay, so on 21, if we have mud and debris being caused by whatever, we can,
Because it's really not an ordinance that regulates streets, it's regulating these developers.
excellent.
Ms. Ox?
Yeah, again, I think this is great. My only question would be is like, would this just be, require reporting? Like phone calls? Like how will this be basically
Typically,
patrolled,
yes.
I guess?
If someone sees this, they can contact the town, and we would follow up. More than likely, it would be a code enforcement situation, but with our code enforcement officer only being here one day a week, we anticipate that, other members of staff planning, someone like that may have to follow up, take a look at this, but yes, it would just call the town, report it, and we'll get the process started.
Okay, so it still would not fall to the police department then, as far as?
Not unless it was on a weekend and it was an unusual situation,
Okay.
but the goal is to hopefully have code enforcement and planning handle this. Yes.
Thanks.
That leads to my question, possibly town manager, either one of you. Since we do have just the one day a week for the code enforcement, someone calls on a Monday, and maybe code enforcement doesn't come in until Thursday. I'm just throwing that out as an example. So that's 3 or 4 days it's out there, and then he has to act on it. I mean, how would we handle that if there's a delay in their
Sure.
time period?
If a call came in on a day of the week that John wasn't here, staff would just track down where the mud's coming from. Typically, they're coming from construction sites, so we do have a contact. So we would reach out to their site managers and say, hey, you need to get out there and clean this up. Typically, they're pretty responsive. We've had pretty good results with that, but that's how we'd handle it. And then if we got no response, then we would start this process.
Okay. With that being said, is there a motion to adopt ordinance 0522?
I so move, Mr. Mayor.
Motion's on the floor. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Motion is made, received a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, no. Ayes have it, motion passes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the annexation request, AX 2201, non-contiguous. Applicant is Andrew and Christy Phillips. It's 1 acre. The pin is referenced here in your minutes, in your agenda. It is the east side of Charlotte Highway, south of exit 42. I will now open this public hearing and turn it over to Ms. Hare.
As you stated, Mr. Mayor, this is just a request being made by the Phillips, who are the owners of the property. It's a 1 acre tract on Highway 21. It's right above the charter school, and they have just asked to be brought into the corporate limits. They're currently in unincorporated Iredell County. This is a non-contiguous annexation due to the fact that the areas that are adjacent, this is considered a satellite annexation area. But staff would recommend that this annexation request be approved.
Thank you, Ms. Hare. Are there any public comments regarding this request? Okay. Are there any comments from council for Ms. Hare on this particular project? Okay. I will now close this public hearing. Council, you've heard from Ms. Hare regarding this request. We will now consider an ordinance 0622 titled an ordinance to extend the corporate limits of the town of Troutman, North Carolina, non-contiguous. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance 0622? And if so, please state your motion.
I'll make a motion that we adopt ordinance 0622.
Motion's on the floor to adopt ordinance 0622 to extend the corporate limits of the town of Troutman non-contiguous. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made, receive the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? say no. Hearing none, motion passes. We will now consider rezoning, a rezoning request, RZ 2201. The applicant is Andrew and Chrissy Phillips. It's 1 acre. The pin is referenced in your agenda. It is the east side of Charlotte Highway, south of exit 42. It is from Iredell County Residential Agricultural RA to Town of Troutman Highway Business. I will now open this public hearing and turn it over to Ms. Hare.
Yes, this is the rezoning portion of the annexation that we just heard for the Phillips property. As you said, the applicants are Andrew and Christy Phillips, and again, this property is located on the east side of Charlotte Highway. It is currently zoned RA in Iredell County, unincorporated Iredell County. What the applicant is requesting is that this property be rezoned to highway business. I want to point out that this is a traditional rezoning, not conditional. So there's no proposed use of the property at this time, and there's no conditions attached. So what we're looking at this evening is just assigning a zoning classification of HB to the property. When the property is developed, all of the regulations per the Troutman UDO will apply to this property. Here is an aerial photograph that shows the location of the property here. This is the charter school, Lowe's Home Improvements in this area. This is Highway 21. This is our current zoning map. You can see that the property is in unincorporated Iredell County. Properties across the street are also zoned HB, which is the category being requested by the applicant, as well as properties just to the south in this area here. Highway business per our ordinance is basically a district that is designed for primarily retail and service uses. It's designed for larger trading areas. Typically, it's on a large thoroughfare. It may even be near interchanges. And these retail uses typically attract from a larger area, like a Lowe's Home Improvement, not like your typical downtown type of shops that we see here in our downtown area. This is the future land use map that shows this property as interstate or interchange commercial. I want to point out that interchange commercial is very similar to the HB zoning district. The two sort of go hand in hand, and that this type of land use is typically located on large thoroughfares near interchanges, and it is designed for larger retail and commercial uses as well as higher density residential. The planning board did hear this request on March 28th, and it was unanimously recommended that approval be recommended to the town council. There was a statement of reasonableness and consistency that the planning board made at that meeting. I just copied that here so that the people in the audience could see it, and if you all wanted to reference that, but I will not read that verbatim. Staff is also recommending approval of this rezoning request for two things. We found that the land use map that's contained within our strategic plan recommends the site and its environs be developed for interchange commercial. Highway business fits with the interchange commercial designation. The property is also very close to exit 42 off 77. The majority of properties in this area are also zoned for commercial use or are already zoned HB. So council this evening has several options before them. One is you all can choose to rezone as being requested. You can assign it a different zoning classification, a combination of districts. You can choose to deny the request or defer it. And that is the end of staff's presentation. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer those.
Thank you, Ms. Hare. Are there any comments from the public regarding this rezoning request? Council, any questions for Ms. Hare? Okay. Hearing none, I will now close this public hearing. Council, we will now consider approval of ordinance 0722 titled an ordinance changing the zoning classification of the after described property from Iredell County Rural Agricultural RA to Town of Troutman Highway Business. Is there a motion to adopt ordinance 0722?
Mayor, I'll make that motion. I make the motion we adopt ordinance 07-22 titled an ordinance changing the zoning classification of the after described property from Iredell County Rural Agriculture RA to Town of Troutman Highway Business HB.
Motion's on the floor to adopt the ordinance 0722. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is made, received a second. Any other question or comment? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? No. Ayes have it. Motion passes. The next item on the agenda is to consider a statement of consistency. Council, I would ask that you read your statement if there is such a statement.
I'll read it then, sir. Rezoning to highway business is consistent with the 2035 future land use map to allow appropriate highway-oriented commercial development at this location. The request is consistent with the currently adopted UDO, Unified Development Ordinance. The request is reasonable and in the public interest as it proposes to allow commercial development in areas of Troutman where it is appropriate.
Thank you. Motion's on the floor regarding our statement of consistency. Is there a second to the motion?
No second.
Motion is made, received a second, that the property is consistent with our UDO long-range plan. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. The next item is a rezoning RZ 2203, Town of Troutman, located at 364 and 354 North Main Street, 345, 341, 337, 333, and 334 North Avenue. And the pins are referenced in your agenda. There's a request to rezone 5.435 acres from town residential to office institutional. I will now open this public hearing and turn it over to Ms. Hare.
This, Mr. Mayor, members of council, is an application for rezoning that's actually being made by the town. These are properties that the town owns that front North Eastway Drive and North Avenue, just adjacent to Town Hall. It's 8 properties in total, and these are properties that, as stated, that are owned by the town. They are currently zoned town residential, which is a residential zoning classification. The request is that these properties be rezoned to OI, which is office institutional. And the reason for this request is to allow for this property to be used for the future in the future for office use and potentially for a town hall expansion sometime in the future. As you can see, this is the aerial photograph. Highlighted in red are the 8 parcels that we're requesting be rezoned this evening. This is our current zoning map. You can see Town Hall, and this area is already zoned office institutional, as are properties along Main Street. The properties in question are currently zoned RT. Office institutional is a zoning district that does allow for office use, but I also want to point out that it also allows for residential uses as well. There are currently 2 houses on this property. The town is considering converting those to office use for staff. If for whatever reason they decide not to go in that direction, this zoning classification will allow the town to continue to use those for residential use and potentially rent those out. Our future land use map does call for this property to be office institutional, so the request is consistent with that land use plan, except for this back parcel, which is shown as high-density residential in the land use plan. Office institutional civic use, it allows for offices, education, religious, financial, medical uses, and as I stated, that zoning will allow for some lower density residential uses as well. The planning board heard this request on March 28th. There was a split vote. They did approve it 3-2. 2 of the planning board members did vote against the request. The reason given is they wanted to maintain the residential uses, and I think that walkability was a concern. So as stated, there is a consistency statement that was made by the planning board that I've included on your presentation just for reference. Staff is also recommending approval of this request. It does match our future land use map. We also feel that the office institutional use is consistent with how Town Hall and other adjacent properties are currently zoned as well. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer those. Again, the council options are highlighted here for you on the overhead, just for reference. But if you have any questions, as I stated, I'd be happy to answer them.
Great. Are there any public comments for Ms. Hare regarding this rezoning request? Okay. Are there any comments from council for Ms. Hare regarding this rezoning request?
What is the park, ESC Parks class, what is their zoning? I was just thinking of the house there at the entry. We're going to, at some point, have to change it again, or would it be, would office institutional be fine if we tear the house down at some point?
It would be. I mean,
Would
for the
it?
park use, I don't think there'd be a conflict with that. I'd have to do a little bit of research, but I actually think our park's currently zoned, oh, that's my land use map. I think it's zoned industrial, because the land was donated to the town by ESC, and I don't know that zoning was ever changed.
So our zoning would be okay if it becomes
I
parking
think
or
we would
whatever?
be fine,
It still fits
yes.
with everything?
Correct,
Okay.
yes. I think we would be fine. That's a good question, though.
Any other questions for Ms. Hare? Okay. I will now close this public hearing. Council, we will now consider ordinance, approval of ordinance 0822, titled an ordinance changing the zoning classification of the after described property from Iredell County rural agricultural to Town of Troutman office institutional. Is there a motion regarding the adoption of this ordinance?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make that motion that we approve ordinance 822, titled an ordinance changing the zoning classification of the after described property from Iredell County rural agriculture town. It's Town of Troutman office institutional. That should then change the town residential. There needs to be a correction there. It's actually changing from town residential RT to Town of Troutman office institutional.
Right. I think it's on the newer agenda, not the older one. Yep.
I had the new one out.
Yeah, oh, okay. Still on there? Okay. All right, so motion's on the floor to change the property from Iredell County rural agricultural to Town of Troutman office institutional.
It's to change from town residential.
Town
RT.
residential, that's right.
That's a correction needed to be made on that
Yeah,
motion.
didn't make it, okay, got it. Is there a second to that motion?
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Motion's on the floor, received a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item is the consideration of a statement of consistency. Council, is there a statement of consistency? And if so, please read the full statement.
Okay, I'll do it. You want to do it?
I'll read that, Mr.
Okay.
Mayor. Consistency statement. Rezoning to office institutional is consistent with the 2035 future land use map to allow appropriate highway-oriented commercial development at this location. This request is consistent with the currently adopted Unified Development Ordinance. The request is reasonable and in the public interest as it proposes to allow commercial development in the areas of Troutman where it is appropriate.
A motion's on the floor regarding our statement of consistency. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made, received a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. The next item on the agenda is our sanitation sewer connection to Children's Hope Alliance Barron campus. I will now turn it over to Mr. Wyatt.
Mayor and council, this is, excuse me, this is a follow-up of an agreement the town had with the Children's Hope Alliance in Iredell County. A contract was put out for bid. An agreement was made between the three parties. However, the bid came in much higher than anticipated, and this is simply an administrative matter to change that to be corrected. We ask that you approve our change.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wyatt. Council, you've heard from Mr. Wyatt. Any questions for Mr. Wyatt regarding this amendment? Okay. If not, is there a motion to approve the amended agreement as presented?
Make that motion, sir.
Motion's on the floor to approve the amendment as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is made, received a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Again, Mr. Wyatt.
Item number 16 on your agenda, we ask that you respectfully that you consider approval of Resolution 1122 titled Resolution to Adopt the Recommended Water and Wastewater Collection.
15B.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're still on that sanitary sewer
15B, the bid.
collection. We got one more item under there, under the awarding the bid to Buckeye
Oh,
Bridge.
yes, I apologize.
Mhm.
As part of the 15, Section B, we did submit for open public bid. There were 4 different persons who submitted bids. They were opened. The lowest bidder that is recommended by our engineer, West Consultants, was for Buckeye Bridge, LLC. We recommend that you all allow them to proceed forward with that as the low bidder for the project.
Okay, motion's on the, a request is on the floor to award sanitary sewer construction project to Buckeye Bridge. Is there any questions for Mr. Wyatt regarding this recommendation? Okay. Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the awarding of the project to Buckeye Bridge?
I'll make a motion, we award the sanitary sewer construction project to Buckeye Bridge LLC.
Motion's on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is received a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Back to you, Mr. Wyatt.
Okay. Now we'll go back to 16. Town of Troutman 2023-2033 Capital Improvement Plan. We ask that you respectfully consider approval of Resolution 1122 titled Resolution to Adopt the Recommended Water and Wastewater Collection System Capital Improvement Plan Fiscal Year 2022-2023 through Fiscal Year 2032-2033.
Thank you, Mr. Wyatt. Is there any questions for Mr. Wyatt regarding this request for this resolution? I know we discussed it a bit on Monday, but any questions since then? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the resolution 1122?
Also move, Mr. Mayor.
Motion is on the floor to approve resolution 1122. Is there a second?
A second, Mr. Mayor.
Motion receives a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. We'll move on down to the Spring 22 Water and Sewer Grant applications. Mr. Wyatt?
We have several grant applications. Number 17A, we ask that you consider approval of Resolution 1222 titled Town of Troutman Resolution Authorizing Application for Funding from North Carolina Division of Water Infrastructure, DEQ, for a wastewater system project. Do you want me to do all of those at once, or do you prefer they be done individually?
Oh, you do them all at once, and we're going to handle them individually.
Thank you. Consider approval of Resolution 1322 titled Resolution Town of Troutman Clay Pipe Sewer System Inventory and Assessment Project. And C, consider approval of Resolution 14-22 titled Resolution by the Town of Troutman authorizing application for an AIA state funding of project described as Water System Inventory and Assessment Project. As we discussed Monday, these are needed for us to apply. I would love to tell you we feel good about getting all of those, but we don't know until we do apply. But we can't apply without your authorizing us to do so.
Okay. Great. So we're going to take each one of these, and I'd ask council to let's get them expediently. But the first item is there a motion to approve Resolution 1222?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor, that we consider approval of Resolution 1222 titled Town of Troutman, authorizing application for funding from NCDEQ Division of Water Infrastructure for a wastewater system improvement project.
Great. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made, received a second. Any other question or comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item is the consideration for the approval of Resolution 1322. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we consider approval of Resolution 1322 titled Resolution by the Town of Troutman authorizing application for AIA state funding of project described as the Clay Pipe Sewer System Inventory and Assessment Project.
Motion's on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is made, received a second. Any other question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Next item is the consideration for the approval of Resolution 1422. Is there such a motion?
I'll make that motion that we we approve Resolution 1422 titled Resolution by the Town of Troutman authorizing application for AIA state funding of project described as the Water System Inventory and Assessment Project.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Motion is made, received a second. Any question or comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. We look forward to hearing from you, Mr. Wyatt and Mr. Thomas, that we received approval of all of these. Thank you.
I hope that I can deliver that message, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. The next item on the agenda is consideration of town boards and committees. The first item is Board of Adjustment, and at this time I'll turn it over to Mr. Wyatt.
Mr. Mayor and Council, you all have the nominations in your packets. For all of these, they are full. For Board of Adjustments, we have Helen Byers, which is a reappointment, and we have Tamara Hatley, which is a reappointment, and their Board of Adjustments has recommended those as well.
So the first,
I'm sorry, those both are 3-year terms. I apologize, Mr. Mayor.
yep. So for two, one's a in-town member and one's a ETJ member, both
Yep.
are 3-year terms.
Yes, sir. Miss Byers, I believe, is the
ETJ.
ETJ, and Ms. Hatley is the current chair and is the in-town member.
Great. Council, we've heard from Mr. Wyatt regarding the Board of Adjustment appointments and nomination. Is there a motion to approve the appointment and nomination?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I would just like to know, are all seats, since these are both reappointments, are all seats filled on the Board of Adjustments?
They are?
Thank
Yes, sir.
Is there a motion to approve the recommended appointment and nomination?
Also motion.
Thank you, Mr. Hinkle. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is made, received a second to appoint and nominate these two individuals to 3-year terms. Any question or comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. The next item is planning and zoning. Mr. Wyatt?
We have, I apologize. This microphone's crooked.
Mr. Wyatt, before you go there, while you clear your throat, I failed to handle the legal representation for Board of Adjustment. So at council, you want to speak to that as well?
I certainly can. For the Board of Adjustments, we have legal action that we spoke of in our closed session Monday. And we have received notification that it's been addressed, and we anticipate that there will be a hearing coming up in the near future once we do all the logistics. That being said, as you all were advised, our town attorney will represent the town, but we need a legal representative that would represent the Board of Adjustments in such action should it go forward. I have spoke with Attorney Patrick Flanagan, who has represented one of our neighboring towns on numerous cases, and he has agreed to represent us if you all are so moved.
Request to allow Mr. Attorney Flanagan to represent the Board of Adjustment. Council, is there a motion regarding this representation?
I'll make that motion, Mr. Mayor, that we appoint Attorney Flanagan to be our not planning and zoning, a Board of Adjustment lawyer.
Motion's on the floor to allow Mr. Flanagan to represent the Board of Adjustment if needed. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion is made, received a second. Any other question or comment? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Planning and zoning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To planning and zoning, we have two seats that are up for ETJ. The current chair, Randy Farmer, and also Barry General, both have submitted their applications for reappointment.
Recommendations on the floor from two sitting members to the be considered for planning and zoning. ETJ positions for 3-year terms. Mr. Farmer and Mr. General, is there a motion to accept these two recommendations?
I'll make that motion.
Motion's on the floor to recommend Mr. Farmer and Mr. General as the two ETJ positions on P and Z. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other question or comment? Motion,
I did want to make the comment that these nominations that you're just making are going to the Iredell County Commissioners for actual appointment.
Thank you, Kim. I forgot to leave that out.
Thank
We
you.
will submit those to the Iredell County Board of Commissioners for them to consider at their next meeting.
Great. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Just let all these members so far, let them know that their pay will increase.
That's exactly right.
Thank you.
For C, Mr. Mayor, Parks and Rec Committee, after we had discussed with you all Monday and advising and met with staff, Chip Smith, he is here with us for the Parks and Rec Committee. We have a couple projects that are going up that we honestly had not had time to release to you all yet. One of which will come up during the budget workshop next week. But due to that and due to several factors, the current committee for the Parks and Rec allows for the appointment of 3 at-large, and then there are 2, which is 1 appointee from ESC and also 1 from the TYAA group, for a total of 5. But due to some activities that are anticipated and will be coming forth in this coming year, hopefully within the Parks and Rec Committee and activities, and due to you all's discussion, we respectfully ask that you all consider, before the appointments here are done, that you all would give the directive to the Parks and Rec Committee a motion that they increase from 3 at-large members to 5 at-large members to better be able to serve the committee and be able to have meetings should some of these committee members have an issue to where they cannot attend due to work or other commitments. That way meetings could continue due to so many meetings this past year having to be canceled or delayed because of members' volunteerism just simply did not work out. So by increasing it from 5 total members to 7, they will still be able to have a quorum in the absence of 1 or 2 members, to where if we left it the way it was, it would simply be a hardship on the Parks and Rec Committee to function as properly as we hope for them to function going forward. So we respectfully ask once again that you all consider increasing the committee size on the at-large members from 3 to 5 as a directive to the Parks and Rec Committee as an approval, and then then we will give you the nominees if that's satisfactory.
Great. Council, you've heard from Mr. Wyatt. Is there any questions for Mr. Wyatt regarding the recommendation? Okay. Is there a motion to approve the recommendation to amend the rules of procedure for the Parks and Rec Committee from 3 to 5 at-large members?
I will make that motion, Mr. Mayor, that we could consider the recommendation that Parks and Rec is asking for to go from 3 to 5.
Motion's on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion received a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Mr. Wyatt?
We have several members' applications already. We have 2 for reappointment. Michael Barker, who has currently serving and is in the room working our IT. We also have Tanya Bartlett for reappointment. We have 2 members, Sally Williams, who did serve on the committee as the appointed council person. However, in that role, she did not have a vote. She has filled out an application to serve as an active member, which would give her voting authority. And we also have Martin Page, who has served and volunteered in previous years, but not as an official committee member due to some other commitments. He, however, is going to have plenty of time on his hands going forward.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Wyatt regarding the 4 at-large members? And these are for 2-year terms.
Yes, sir. All 4 would be 2-year terms.
Great. Any other questions for Mr. Wyatt?
So does this mean there'll be 1 open position?
Yes, sir. There was some inquiries already, but currently that would leave 1 left.
So is there a motion to approve the recommended at-large members to the Parks and Rec Committee?
I will make that motion, Mr. Mayor, that we appoint our 4 at-large members for 2-year terms.
Great. Motion's on the floor. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposition? Hearing none, motion passes. Please let Mr. Barker and Mr. Barrett know that we will absolutely increase their pay. And Ms. Williams, and she kind of knows what that pay looks like. And I'm sure Mr. Page will also enjoy his additional compensation.
Can I ask just one?
Yes, sir.
Right, so does that leave just, as far as our appointments go to our committees, does that leave only 1 position on the Parks and Rec Committee as an open position yet to be filled? Does that include the alternates on the other boards?
There's 2 planning and zoning board positions that are still available, but we only had, how many applications at this point?
There are 2 alternate on planning and zoning that are open. We do not have any active applications on that board.
And Board of Adjustment?
There is 1 alternate, I believe, that is open on that board.
Yeah. Okay.
And any applications for that one?
People fill them out, send them in.
Great.
And I stress, just as much as we would like to have volunteers, just because a person volunteers does not necessarily make them a suited candidate to serve. So while we want volunteers, we need to know what their background is and their availability and what knowledge they could or would bring to these boards.
Okay. Is there a certain criteria we could point to maybe not have people
depends
wasting
on the-
time or
It
case by
depends on-
case?
It depends on the board to answer your question.
Okay, okay.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Wyatt, are these in-town positions or ETJ positions?
The clerk is looking that up.
Thank you.
BOA's in town.
There is one town position and one town alternate position available on planning and zoning. I'm not sure, I think it's, ETJ,
I'm in town.
yeah, in town, I'm sorry, in town on Board of Adjustment.
Thank you, Kim.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
If this is about pay,
No.
we're not, we're not handling that right now, but,
No, I'll discuss that later.
okay.
The 4 members that were just voted to Park and Rec, and you want to increase that to 5, but your TYAA and your ESC representative, they're also considered voting members and part of the quorum. So you're gonna have to increase it.
That's 7.
That's 7.
Right.
Right.
At large is what he just increased, what we just increased was the at large.
Right. It went from 5 currently, well, previously, before the vote, it went from 5 to a total of 7.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. So that way a quorum would be 4, to whereas we used to needed at least 3 and we didn't have.
Great. Thank you. The next item on the agenda are comments from council and myself and staff. Mr. Wyatt, I'll start with council, and I'll start to my far left. The Harrises, yes.
First off, I'd like to thank Planning Director Hare for the mud ordinance. I think that's one that when we get calls, it's not, it'd be good, we can say we can address these, we have a way to do that. Just, I appreciate that you got that out there for us. The other one is, then I just returned from the Essentials of Government Training and Ethics Training again. Very helpful. Every couple of years, get a little refresher on some of how we conduct our business and some of the issues that come up. It's over time and with our finances and stuff. It's been very helpful in 2 days. So I appreciate the town making that possible for us.
So, Mr. Harris?
Yeah,
Ms. Harris.
I just wanted to, again, thank all the staff for everything that you all do. I wanted to thank Justin for the good report that we received today. I mean, I know there were many more involved in that, but you picking up the ball and running with it, that was an excellent report. So thank you for all of your hard work. Thank you to all the citizens who are listening and to all who attended. I wanted to welcome and thank our the statesville NAACP president, Todd Scott, for being here on tonight. And thank you to Sally for all of those kind words that you said about the town. Excuse me, and thank you, Mr. Hale, for speaking as well. Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Mr. Miller?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to wish all our citizens happy Easter and happy Passover. I also, with Councilman Harris, attended the UNC School of Government Essentials of Government, and I want to thank the town for sending us. It's very informative. Came back with some great information that we're going to be just able to help the town with. It's a great 2-day course in ethics and spending and whatnot. So, but thank you for the town for sending us. And I also would like to thank Planning and Zoning, Lynn Hare, for being proactive with making that video on the Children's Hope Alliance on how things will go in the future. I just personally think that it's a great idea to be proactive and ahead explaining how this is going to unfold. So, thank you.
Yes, I also echo those sentiments as well. Just like I said Monday, briefly, I was able to attend the police community meeting that was held, a couple weeks ago. It was fantastic. I encourage anybody that's watching or anybody that has any desire. It was a great event. I encourage you to come next time that the chief's able to put one of those together. One thing, there was a few great things here. I know Monday also, the desire was expressed Monday for staff to share more info for the sake of transparency, which I think is a great thing. That was something that you brought up, Mr. Wyatt. I think it's tremendous, because I know that there's been some requests here by the council for certain info. So I know that myself, I know Mr. Now, and hopefully the rest of the councils think that I think that's a great directive. I did also notice the new sign in town. Good to see that thing's lit up again, and I know I've missed it. So I didn't know how much I would miss it until it was gone, so it's a really good thing. So a great way for us to disseminate information. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Hinkle?
It's pretty much been covered, sir. Folks have said I agree with and hear, and, so I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Great, thank you. Not a whole lot extra, but welcome, Mr. Scott. Thanks for coming out. Thank you all for being here. It's good to have a few faces in the room during council meetings. It's always interesting as I continue to read the news. Hopefully we can get through this next wave of the virus without having to go back to mask requirements. And I say that very lowly because I would hate to see that. But I think clearly we got to continue to be vigilant and maintain safety in our community. I also would like to say that I see Chief is gone, but I know the good work that our law enforcement have to do, especially after nights like last night, and appreciate Mr. Wyatt and the whole team jumping in and supporting our town. I don't think we're used to being on national news on a regular basis, and hopefully that won't happen much. But again, appreciate the attention to these crazy kind of issues that pop up in our world today, and we'll continue to get through it together. So appreciate you all's work. I wish everyone a wonderful Easter, and pray your families continue to celebrate the birth of Christ. The last thing I would say is I did come down the Greenway today, and I just happened to notice how good it looks. So please let Adam and the Public Works team and all the staff know it looks really good. Our town looks good. I appreciate those efforts by all of the staff, and it's just a testament to folks coming together and taking pride in what we do in our town. So again, thank you for that. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Wyatt for any.
Remember, I'm sorry, something you said kind of spurred me to think. I want to thank the town manager for keeping us well informed on situations that are a little unusual, so that we know what's going on. And if a citizen does ask us, we're not standing there, like what, so I do appreciate that and continue that. And thank you very much for how you deal in the situations that can be very difficult sometimes, to say the least.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you very much for the kind comments for myself and staff. The police department certainly are the front row to our safety in the community, and it's very good of our community as a whole, and the kind comments and things that they do for our police. They're well respected and thought of here, and that's obvious on a regular basis. But as you said, Mr. Mayor, when we're forced into the national spotlight due to no actions of our own, it's easy for people to start making statements and saying things out there, when I very much think Chief Watson and his staff, the thing that we tried to do in speaking with you last night, Mr. Mayor, was make sure that there's always multiple sides in those situations. And while the public has a demanding desire to know and demands it in so many different ways, it's more important in those situations that we get the facts right so that all the people's privacy and can be respected. And in this situation, we're thankful that it was not a life situation where somebody lost their life, and we're thankful of that. But law enforcement agency our size is greatly impacted and get very few hours of sleep. And I can tell you, some of the national media folks surely don't know how to respect the process when they start their inquiries and threats wanting this information out. And I appreciate very much Chief Watson and the way he handled it, and our local district attorney, Sarah Kirkman, and also other law enforcement agencies here, Sheriff Campbell, offered resources as well. And even though they were not needed, he was certainly quick to offer those if needed. The Easter weekend is upon us, and it's just like last weekend. I would just like to reiterate, we have a lot of staff that normally is here working even when they don't need to or have to. I appreciate the compliments you all have said about the greenway and the flowers and things of that nature. You can certainly tell when an employee takes pride in his or her work, and it's a reflection of where they live. We currently have more employees percentage-wise living here and working here than we have had in a long time. It goes back to when Jimmy Troutman and Ann Sims were two of the main three employees that worked for the town to get a percentage to where we are now. And Chip Smith likes to take all the credit for it just because he and his employee are planting these flowers all over town. But that was one of the things we discussed last year as council and staff, and it's certainly starting to show this year, and this being Easter weekend, as was in our newsletter for people to stop and take pictures and enjoy, we're certainly seeing that as we're out and about. And I appreciate all of the staff's work for that, not just with the police part of last night, but the ripple effect of what that does to the rest of the staff and the disruption that it causes for our town. I appreciate all staff and what they've had to go through. The situations to where the citizens sometimes think that we have our gates down and we're welcoming all building and all things coming. Of course, we would like to put out there publicly every time the attorneys send us a letter and say we're going to court, and things don't happen the way that the public gets to hear about all those cases. But just one case that the council voted to no on a project in town because I think Councilman Harris's words were something similar to, I don't think the timing is right now, and that's not his words, but it was something close to that. We wound up in court over that project, but it was reaffirmed this week. Staff certainly we're headed that way again because we've told some others that we're not in favor of their projects. So we are conscious to what we hear from our community, and as we go through next week's budget workshop, I hope you all eat a lot and are feeling good when you come in Tuesday, because some of that news is not going to be as nice as we would like for it to be, but I will say it's nowhere near as bad as it could be either, because we are a very good community with good citizens, and our facts on that budget will, I think, help us out as compared to where we have also, again, been in years past. So I look forward to seeing you all Tuesday with the budget.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Wyatt? So you hadn't been talking to Ms. Williams about her pay increase, have you? Is that in the budget?
A lot.
Understood. All right.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Is there a second? Second. Motion's made, received a second. All those in favor say aye.
Good job, Harrison.
Any opposition? Yeah, the Harrisons took it. Thank y'all for coming.
Attorneys at law.
Jones, Lee McKinley.